One of the main things is not abandoning ourselves and pretending that it's not happening, right? If you're feeling stress, if you're feeling lonely, or whatever is the sadness, whatever is the emotion inside of you, the number one thing is giving yourself space to feel it. And not necessarily, this is an important part, because oftentimes we don't want to feel it because it's a negative emotion. What is an emotion? It's a vibration within our body, right? So when I'm saying like feel the sadness, everybody's like, I don't want to feel the sadness because it doesn't feel good inside of me. And that's true, it doesn't. But if we pretend like it's not happening, it's going to remain there.
Well, welcome everyone to Rising the Consciousness of Humanity. Whether you're watching this on YouTube or anywhere else, I would highly ask you to like, to subscribe. That helps us build this awareness within the YouTube community, as well as anywhere else you may be viewing this. We really, really appreciate your generous ability to like and subscribe to this material. I am purposely bringing forth people who I would consider that are way showers, people that I would consider that are thought leaders or life coaches or people that are making a difference in the world today. And I'm excited to bring my dear friend, Ewelina Konyndyk. She is a life coach specializing in the area of helping immigrant women. And she has a business. She's also a leader of a very popular networking group in Sarasota called RGA. Anyways, I'd like to just ask you, Ewelina, what is the thing that really kind of, I know you're from originally from Poland, so tell the audience a little bit about why did you choose this particular niche within the life coaching realm?
Yeah, thank you for having me, first of all. The reason why I have chosen to be a life coach for immigrant women is because in my immigrant journey, and I came to the US in 2005, I could have really used someone like myself today when I was struggling and building connections to Americans, building this like a foundation for my life here. I went through a pretty long identity crisis. Today I understand what it was and what caused it. Back then I was completely lost and feeling like there's something wrong with me. And I know that that is just part of an immigrant journey, and there's a lot of women that go through what I went through. It was today I see it as a necessary suffering, but because I know the solution to it. But it was a long, very stressful period of time where I was confused and lost and feeling very disconnected and unsure what's wrong with me, right? There was all different kinds of heavy emotions that I was dealing with every single day. And the reason why I have chosen to help immigrant communities because I know the solution to this problem. And I also am aware that where it comes to dealing, because immigrant journey is such a huge part of our lives when we become immigrants, when we move to a different country, that it is easier to work with someone who understands it. And I do. I have the privilege of knowing it in and out. So
Yeah.
that's why.
Well, and like as I think I've shared with you, sometimes we Americans who don't necessarily take the action that we should or feel we should. When we look at somebody that's has immigrated to the United States that gets out there and is brave, takes these risks, steps up because I think it's a huge step just to be able to come to a country where the language is not your language that you've grown up with. So with that, I guess, how do you specifically help your clients?
So, how do I help my clients? One of the things that I do, I specialize in, is mindset coaching. We take a very close look at the mind because you see what happens when you move. It doesn't matter if you move across the, you know, Atlantic like I did, or you just move to a different place. One of the things that happen is that you're gonna start building safety. And the
Mhm,
safety is being built by the lower part of the brain that is either way
mhm,
doing it automatically. But the lower part of the brain wants to look for what's familiar, what is the same. And that's where it finds a sense of, like, we find comfort in it. This is why there's a lot of immigrants that will come across the
Mhm.
Atlantic, like I did, and they will be looking for people from the country that they came from. And sometimes it will happen that they will just connect with their communities and they will feel so comfortable. Their comfort zone will be so solid that they will not be looking outside of it. And
Mhm.
it's almost like, why did you move then? You could have just stayed in Poland, or you could have just stayed in Germany, right? If
Sure.
all you're doing is speaking German and you're connecting only to people who are from your culture, what was this for, really?
Mhm.
So anyway, this is an automatic thing that happens within us, right? This scanning of reality, creating safety connections. And unfortunately, from that point, what we're also doing is we're judging black and white the reality we are in.
Mhm.
So we are prone by our brain to see differences.
Mhm.
We will be seeing things that bother us in Americans as immigrants, right? This is why we want to
Yeah.
be close to the people that think of like us, because Americans think very differently. Now, this is very individualized thing. I have a lot of clients, or in the communities I'm involved in, I see very individualized, like, approach to immigrant journey overall, because not everybody has it like I'm describing it, but most of my clients do, right? So
Yeah.
they move here, they have this automatic judgment happening in their mind, and
Mhm.
they're creating disconnect from the place of safety. They're not creating relationships. They're not creating their life here, the foundation for their life, from a place of choice. It just kind of
Mhm.
happens automatically. And what I do, what I specialize in, is I help them create these connections to the US, to the, first of all, connection to themselves. This is the most important
Yeah.
piece, because one of the things that happens as you become an immigrant is that you feel kind of like you are torn apart between two worlds. You have the old world where you came from, and you have the new world where you're trying to create connections. And in this world, people don't know the you whom you were back there.
Mhm.
And when you go back to your home country, people don't understand what you went through here. So
Yeah.
they don't fully connect. You cannot fully explain it and connect with them there either. So you feel lonely and disconnected from both worlds. You kind of feel like, okay, I have these connections, but nobody really understands me fully in either environment.
Yep.
So one of the things that I teach is self-belonging, as I help my clients create a belonging to themselves so that they feel home, doesn't matter where they're at. They're not abandoning themselves in the situations of stress. They manage their mind, right? They manage their emotions. They are there for themselves when the stressful situations come. So first of all, we create that connection within. The second type of connections, we choose connection to the US, to
Mhm.
Americans, to places here by choice. Again, we choose what we love about this country,
Mhm.
right? We look at all the very positive aspects of being here. And then if we want to create more relationships with Americans, we also create that from a point of choice versus just automatic connecting from a place of judgment, which often happens.
Yeah.
And then the third connection that I help my clients create is the one with their home country. Again, we're doing this on purpose so that feelings like missing their home country, because that's oftentimes will
Mhm.
happen. Feelings around Christmas time, a lot of guilt, a lot of sadness because we're not with our family members. All of that is managed,
Mhm.
well taken care of, because we're utilizing the higher part of the brain, but because we're
Nice.
choosing, right, how we want to be connecting to our old country, and how that connection, how do we want it to look, what do we exactly miss? Is it the
Yeah.
people, the feeling, is it the food, is it the culture? If we miss that, how can we bring it into this reality,
Mhm.
or how can we compensate when we go back, so that the experience of being there when we go back is also what we have chosen, and it's not chosen by people there for us, and we're not choosing to behave in certain ways from a point of guilt, because it's another thing that happens. It's a deep subject, and it's
Sure.
really wide. I can be talking about it for quite some time, but I hope that that kind of answers your
Oh
question.
no, it does. And I'm sure the audience listening, it answers a lot of questions for them because what you start off with was you're basically, like you said, you're addressing mindset. And what what a beautiful thing, because when a person has made the choice to immigrate to the United States, they they often realize that perhaps that's one of the biggest things that they need to wrap their hands around, but they don't know how. And whereas I was, going back to the average American, sometimes we're ingrained and programmed in such a way that we may not ever be pushed to the brink of having to even enter into that world of, how do I take command of my mindset? And so back to that whole question about the bravery factor of stepping out and making your decision to come to a country where you don't know anybody, the language is foreign, and that could be a crisis moment in a way.
Yes.
But when I reach out to you, you're hitting the very foundation, I think, of what all humanity really needs to address is their mindset. And so, yeah, beautifully spoken. Um, I guess my question is like, going on, what's going on in the world today and what's going on within this season, because we're between Christmas and New Year's, right? And there's probably a lot of stress. And I'm sure a lot of people who are listening right now probably feel stress in different ways. What kind of tips would you like to, give to the audience or leave the audience with that could be very, very helpful in a time like now?
Yeah, one of the main things is not abandoning ourselves and pretending that it's not happening, right? If you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling lonely, or whatever is the sadness, whatever is the emotion inside of you, the number one thing is giving yourself space to feel it,
Hmm.
and not necessarily, this is an important part, because oftentimes we don't want to feel it because it's a negative emotion. What is an emotion? It's a vibration within our body, right? So
Hmm.
when I'm saying like feel the sadness, everybody's like, I don't want to feel the sadness because it doesn't feel good inside of me. And that's true, it doesn't. But if we pretend like it's not happening, it's gonna remain there,
Hmm.
right? But if we acknowledge it and it's like, okay, sadness, where's sadness? It's in my heart and it feels like my heart is breaking. And why is this happening? It's because I am alone and I feel like I should be with family members now and I am not, right? Maybe that's the situation that someone is in. The number one tip would be acknowledge it and allow yourself the your own attention, right?
Hmm.
Allow yourself to acknowledge it, simply just acknowledge it and say like, okay, yes, there it is, I'm sad because this and this and that, I'm a human being, this is completely normal, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm just feeling sad. One of the main things that I do with my clients is talking about mindset. We take a very close look at what's happening in the mind because thoughts create feelings. So if
Yep.
someone is struggling, right, they're struggling because of what they're thinking about specific subject. So we take a look
Hmm.
at, okay, I'm feeling sad because, and then explaining it on a piece of paper in a journal. That's the number one thing that my clients do, all of them. I have them all write their
Nice.
so they can take a command of their mind, because otherwise we have 60,000 thoughts on average per day, right?
Yeah.
And they're on a repeat oftentimes, and a lot of them are causing stress and unhappiness and judgment and whatever else. The first level of thinking will always come from that lower part of the brain I was talking about, right? The part that judges reality fast and black and white. So oftentimes it will judge it unfairly and in the
Hmm.
negative manner because it's looking for what is wrong in the reality.
Sure.
So yeah, we have to take a command of what's happening here. So that would be the very first thing I would say. Start writing your thoughts, acknowledge the feelings that you're feeling, and give yourself space and attention. Don't act like you don't matter to yourself, because that is one of the
Yep.
worst things humans do.
Yep. I like the fact that you shared it's important to feel the feelings. Uh, Being a man growing up in a world where it was like you're unable to sometimes express your feelings is we've been conditioned to shut them
Right.
down. So
Absolutely.
I love that. I think that's so valuable. And the fact that you said, to be self-aware of those feelings and the journaling part, I like that too, because writing things down, I'm that way. It's like thoughts come and go, but when you bring it into pen and paper, you can contemplate a little deeper too.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think you have brought in a very important part of it all, right? Like, what is the experience of being a male in this society? What have you been programmed to believe about yourself?
Mm.
And there's this one extra element, and I work mostly with women. But there's this one extra element that I like to share with um, males out there, because when we talk about experiencing negative feelings, we talk about pain,
Mhm.
and that lower part of the brain that is scanning reality for threat anytime we feel painful emotion tells us to avoid it, right? Because
Mhm.
you could be dying. Well, you're feeling sad. Woo, you could be dying. That's how simplistic and dramatic the lower part of the brain is. But one of the things that is very helpful is to utilize the higher part of the brain, prefrontal cortex,
Mhm.
where we start analyzing what's actually happening in the body, right? Because the
Mm.
lower part of the brain will be telling you, oh yeah, don't feel sad, go have a beer.
Yeah.
Get some dopamine, right? Get something, get some release. Go smoke a cigarette. Turn on Facebook. Turn on Netflix. Do something to distract yourself from the feeling, because the feeling could be killing you.
Mhm.
That's how simplistic and terrible it actually really is. But it keeps us alive. So, hey, there's a good thing to it.
Yep.
One of the things that you can do when you're experiencing emotion is to shift to the higher part of the brain, and you're doing it by analyzing. I'm sure you're familiar with this, Ron, right?
Sure.
Where you ask the questions, okay, where is this in my body? What's the shape of it? What's the color of it? Is it moving? Is it steady?
Yep.
And when you start doing it, you start feeling relief from it, because you're not in that lower part of the brain, you're in the higher brain, and you get a distance. It's like you become a watcher of your body, you become a watcher of your mind. And that is a very, very helpful tool for all my clients. But one of the things that, yeah, I feel like it's important for our males, right, to understand that there's a way of feeling the feeling where it's not
Mm.
taking you to this deep place of discomfort.
Yeah.
Because really what happens with a feeling when you start analyzing it, like I just said, it's gonna last for 5, maybe 10 seconds, and then it's gonna go away.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Yeah. No, this is very important. And I'm glad you brought that up. You brought up a lot of valuable information. And yeah, like I said, being in a man's world, quite often we're conditioned to hide our feelings. And in a way, you you don't really experience spiritual growth or even any emotional level growth when you're kind of squashing that down. So thank you. That was actually something I received from your message today too.
okay, good.
Very,
Well,
very, very helpful. How can people find out about you?
I am online. You can find me on my website, lifecoachforimmigrants.com. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about what I do, you can also listen to my podcast, Empowerment for Immigrants. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and I'm in those spaces. But yeah, my mission is to find the immigrant women that feel the way I felt when I was going through my identity crisis, when I was struggling to connect to Americans. That is my mission. I want to make sure that they understand that there's plenty of tools, and that they can support themselves through this difficult, often journey.
Awesome. Well, perfect. Again, your website is lifecoachforimmigrants.com. And you mentioned the podcast, so they can find the podcast through your website.
Yes, also, and the podcast is called Empowerment for Immigrants.
Empowerment for Immigrants.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, Ewelina, thank you so much for being with us here today. Any last minute like parting messages for the audience?
Um, Any messages? Well, I just want to wish everyone an amazing 2024. And one of the biggest messages that I send to my clients nowadays is give yourself at least 5 minutes of paying attention to yourself, what's happening inside of you. Do not pretend like you don't matter to yourself. Start paying attention to what's happening within, because you deserve it. You deserve that self-love that it's necessary for you to function in an optimized way in this environment, crazy, crazy world, crazy environment. So yeah, I
Thank
wish
you.
all of you that you give yourself the gift of self attention as you go through the 2024.
Thank you. Ewelina Konyndyk, Konyndyk. I'm not sure if I pronounced it right, but uh,
It's a Dutch last name. It's complicated. It's
thank
all
you
complicated.
very much for your time. I really appreciate this. Again, everybody out there, please like and share and get this message out. And please reach out to Evelina, especially whether you're an immigrant woman or not. If you're finding this information valuable, she would be perfect for helping you along your spiritual awakening path and any difficulty that you may have. So thank you, Evelina.
Thank you so much, Ren.